Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bitwarden Brilliance. My name is Catt. I am one of the integration engineers here at Bitwarden. Previously, I've always done Brilliance sessions with another one of our integration engineering team members, but I'm on my own for this session today. I thought it might be time for me to go at one of these myself and demonstrate one of my favorite subjects to answer on our support tickets, and that is the difference between our Bitwarden Public API and our Bitwarden Vault Management API. So I get these questions quite a bit, either on calls or tickets that I've been answering. Most SaaS products just have one API. Why do we have two? And what are the differences between them? So I'm super excited to be creating and sharing this session with everybody because it's not only something that's rather unique to our product, but it's also an aspect or a derivation, let's say, of how we maintain our zero-knowledge encryption model, which if anyone has ever been on a technical call or a technical demo with me, this is literally one of my favorite things to discuss. So our founder, Kyle, one time described it in a way I really liked. He said that zero-knowledge encryption model is basically our golden handcuffs, not in that corporate benefits, that's how they get you kind of way, but golden handcuffs in the sense that this aspect of our product is almost like a golden goose of our security model. It's the one top priority we seek to maintain in order to have this open source transparency while ensuring the highest possible security in general. They're also handcuffs because it's not always very easy to maintain this mandate when you also want to have a robust suite of enterprise features, like being able to control things on the end user side, or as we will see in this demonstration and session, being able to control data and perform programmatic actions through an API. Basically, no matter how difficult it may make the product development and design or architecture side of things, this is our mandate and our product differentiator. And this is what makes Bitwarden truly valuable. To me, it's the key to how we maintain the highest levels of security possible that we do, while being completely open source and continue to maintain that promise of trust and transparency simultaneously. Speaking of trust and transparency, quick PSA, the Bitwarden Open Source Security Summit 2025 is happening soon, like in less than a week. So if you guys want to sign up, we always have a great selection of speakers. We get some pretty high profile CISOs and experts to discuss open source and security, which is super cool. So be sure you sign up for that. The link is at the top over there. I just added this slide in as I was working on the presentation because of that teaser that we have from, I think it was probably the first open source security summit we hosted. I believe, don't quote me on this though, I think it was Martin Mikos was talking about the way transparency breeds trust. And yeah, I just think it really captures the philosophy behind all of this. So I thought I'd do a quick reminder to everyone to sign up for the Open Source Security Summit. Okay, anyways, back to our Brilliance topic. All of that to say and preempt the fact that we have two separate APIs is a direct testament, just one of the direct testaments actually, to how dedicated we are to making sure that we commit to open source while being highly secure. So I just like to put that out there, it's not every day you find a company that's so dedicated to trust and transparency that they would develop and maintain two completely separate APIs to achieve that result. And again, the separate APIs are literally just one aspect of what zero knowledge, our golden handcuffs, require in terms of product design and architecture, maintenance, long-term support, and of course, us needing to explain to everyone what the difference between our two APIs are. So hopefully this video can become a helpful resource for that in the future. So anyway, long introduction. It's like we're already friends, but let's get into our agenda for the day. Basic Bitwarden Brilliance stuff, and then getting into the subject of the day. Just want to say I'm going to go real simple terms throughout this whole session, as most of you kind of catch if you've been following my other Brilliance sessions. I try to make everything really accessible so that we can all get on the same page with the technical side and be offered a level playing field to make use of our technical tools. So apologies to anyone who's already very well familiar with the technologies, but I like to make things accessible. What can I say? Okay, so on our agenda, what is Brilliance, why Bitwarden, zero-knowledge encryption model, CLI and APIs, the difference between the two APIs, a demo of getting an endpoint of each. And then we kind of stick around as usual for Q&A. So also, if you just type stuff into the chat, one of us will be monitoring it to answer any questions you have. All right, so let's get into it. What is Brilliance? A bit late to bring this up, but I had so much to say earlier. Bitwarden Brilliance is a monthly stream that we do currently on YouTube Premiere by our integration engineering team. Brilliance is basically a technical deep dive on an aspect of our product. We usually come up with the topics, but we also ask the community for input to see what you'd like us to cover. So you can look out in the community or engage there to note to us what you'd be interested to see. It's scheduled for the third Thursday of every month. And if you're subscribed to our channel, go to our channel to subscribe if not yet. You can find our playlist of all the previous Brilliance sessions done by our integration engineers. Cool, so why Bitwarden? We're secure, as I've already talked about and we'll go over today. Very easy to use, transparency and open source, deployable on all your clients, synchronized to all your devices. We have a very robust sharing model through the collections. I talk about this a lot because I really think, like, as an enterprise, you need to scale and everything. This is the way you should deploy a password manager in an enterprise situation. We're customer-centric, so a lot of our product ideas are developed through all the feedback, basically my team, sales, customer engagement, etc. note and work with our product team directly, my team being integration engineering as well as solutions engineering. And we engage with our product team directly to enhance our product. We have a great community. This seems to be something that's true for most open source software, right? It's just that big techie bunch. So in line with open source software principles and Linuxy kind of principles. So you know that it's not just us we have to respond to because our code is open source. So many people have their eyes on it that are very tech-focused people. So that's our community. And finally, it's available wherever you are. So travel with it and everything is with you on the go. Okay, time for zero-knowledge encryption. As I have reiterated many times already, zero-knowledge encryption model covers a wide range of subjects on the product side, such as trusted device encryption, personal API versus organizational API, why the API key still requires a master password. I'm talking about this because we get all of these questions quite a bit, and it's all related to zero knowledge. And why SSO still requires a decryption method, which is how, by the way, even with SSO, your IDP has no access to your vault data. Individual vaults versus organizational vaults, the sharing models that I was touching on earlier, reporting, offboarding process, as well as the subject of the day, which is the public API versus the vault management API. I do this demonstration in the pre-recorded enterprise demo, but I'll go through this whole thing again because it's really the foundation of how to view the public API versus the vault management API. By the way, this wonderful artwork is indeed my own freehand art. I have thought of redrawing this many times, or like making like a vectorized image or something like this, but everybody smiles when they see this diagram pop up on my screen when I download it for enterprise demos. So it's a conversation starter, and I'm not about to change it while it's still making people smile. So see if we can get my mouse over here. Zero knowledge encryption means that all the vault data that gets sent to our Bitwarden servers on the cloud or your own self-hosted servers is 100% entirely encrypted. We have zero knowledge of any of the data in your vault and zero knowledge of your master password. All the decryption happens entirely on your local device. No one at Bitwarden or otherwise knows your master password or has access to any unencrypted vault data. So as you can see over here, step one is that user A requests access to his or her vault on either our cloud-hosted server or your own self-hosted server. So you type in the email to identify this vault. In step two, we see that this vault as an entirely encrypted entity is sent to user A's local device. It hits user A's local device, still 100% encrypted. And step three is where user A enters his or her master password, which kicks off the decryption process. And only then can user A access any unencrypted data in the vault. This is what is meant by zero knowledge. The data is secured with a unique user key, which service providers do not know, and only the owner of the data can access any unencrypted files. It's a security model that sets up encryption and data segregation in a way that's designed to make data breaches irrelevant. So now let's go to how I would view these tools. So we've got the CLI, which isn't the star of today's show, but is a very important sidekick, or maybe keeping in line with more of the cloud native language, it's like a sidecar-ish kind of thing. We do need to use it later. So I'm bringing it up as well. We have the public API and the Vault Management API. So the CLI is essentially a client, right? It's basically doing all the things you can do on the web vault, mobile app, desktop app, but instead of clicking buttons on these other clients to perform actions, you issue these in the form of commands rather than a GUI. The CLI is a program that runs on your machine and talks to Bitwarden servers, and it's got user-facing feature parity with all the other clients, but it's also got a lot of administrative functionality. So using the CLI, we can write a lot of scripts that can perform administrative actions. So if you'd like, you can set up a virtual machine to run scheduled tasks if you're looking to do that. Check out the documentation for very comprehensive information on the commands. The APIs, on the other hand, kind of go direct, right? As I noted, the CLI is a program that's talking to our servers. And when you type in commands, it's making those same API calls that the web vault or mobile app would make, just triggered by text commands instead of button clicks. Now, the API is the actual interface that all these clients, including the CLI, use to communicate with Bitwarden servers. So now let's get into the two separate APIs that we have and draw back in the zero knowledge aspect. Remember, in the zero knowledge model, all the decryption is happening client side, right? It's on the user's local device. So how is it then that we would be able to reach the vault data that's encrypted on the Bitwarden server when all the vault data is encrypted, right? This is the separation between our public API and our vault management API. The public API is able to interface with the data that's quote unquote publicly accessible, public in quotes, because you still need to authenticate as an admin of an organization. But this does not include any of the vault data that's encrypted, such as the passwords, item names, item types, URLs. Basically, what you can see that is relayed in these endpoints. So let's jump over to the documentation. So, no, not that one, this one. This is the Bitwarden Public API swagger.json. And by the way, the Brilliance session Stacy and I did in March this year was on the Bitwarden Public API. We did a demo of configuring the public API with Postman, if you'd like to check that out. But over here, you can see that once I've authenticated as an admin, this is the content which I would be able to interact with that's available to me. For example, if I were to, I'll just scroll through it just to show everybody. You can go look at it yourself as well. But if I were to go to retrieve a collection, do a GET request on a collection by inputting the ID, this schema is what would return. So we have external ID, objects, ID, groups that are allowed to access it, and type. That's not that much. So I'm using the example of a collection specifically because now let's go to the Vault Management API swagger.json. So this, again, is if you do decrypt the data, right? So let's just scroll through it, like lock and unlock. So you see these are actions that all require the decryption, right? Vault item, you can add a new item into your vault, delete items, attachments, retrieving attachments and files, manage your folders, Bitwarden send, and collections. And let me just keep going through the whole thing. Miscellaneous, sync your vault. See, you can see that these are the actions that you would take on, the browser extension or something like that, right? So let's come up to that same GET request. So over here, we were looking at get collection ID to retrieve a collection, right? Let's see that exact same one over here. That should be this one. Okay, retrieve a collection from a specified organization. So the same request, well, in our demo, we will do the same request. And if we look at the schema over here, it returns different information, right? So the data over here is part of the vault data that's in that encrypted blob, that encrypted entity that you can only access after you first authenticate it and then use the decryption key to decrypt to see this data. For example, the main piece of encrypted data over here would be the name of the collection, right? That's not something you get to see through before you decrypt the vault because it's considered sensitive vault data. Okay, so let me just take a breather over here and come over here in case I've lost anyone. So far, we're just discussing what kind of data comes through on each of these APIs. The two APIs are split between the data that's quote unquote publicly accessible and the data that is, wait, I'm on the wrong page. I meant to be on this page. The public API, which is the data that's publicly accessible, and the data that's encrypted in the vault data. The encrypted vault data, including all your passwords and items, requires both authentication as well as decryption to decrypt that data. Literally, we do this to maintain that zero-knowledge encryption model while being able to access programmatic access of your data, encrypted and unencrypted. The public API requires you to authenticate with the API key, which, by the way, when you go to retrieve an organization API key, you need to enter the master password to get it. So it's not like it's sitting there up for grabs. While the Vault Management API requires a completely different method to use. So while I will demo these, I just want to go over how the Bitwarden Vault Management API works. It actually works in conjunction with the CLI, and that is through the CLI command bwserve. So as it says in the documentation, using the Vault Management API requires that you use the serve command from the CLI to start a local express web server from which to make API requests. This just means that it's running an HTTP interface in the background, and then you make the calls as per usual within that running server. This is the way that the data is decrypted and you're able to interact with it. And you can see that, yeah, like you can basically see in the swagger.json, like this is all the things you can do with the public API. And this is, there's a lot more that you can do with the Vault Management API. So with the Vault Management API, we have that authentication as well as the decryption. This decoupling of the authentication and the decryption step is the model that I've been showing this whole time. That's how we maintain that zero knowledge. All right, so hopefully that sort of makes sense. I will run an example of it. So we'll see how this works in real time. Okay, demo time. Bear with me in this process because I do want to show you all the commands I'm using, but while I was doing a couple runs of this, I found it really difficult to not be spilling anything sensitive. So I've created a notepad on the side to show some of this. I'll be keeping this in the background, but I'm going to have to click around quite a bit to figure this out. So yeah, let's get into it. I am going to do this in a terminal shell so that we're kind of agnostic. If you want to use something like Postman, you can check out Stacy and I's other Brilliance session on how to set that up. So let's go to our documentation first and see how we get going with the public API. We'll start with the public API. So let's see. It's giving us endpoints, telling us, what we have to use if you're using a self-hosted domain instead, self-hosted instance. And so it says we need to get that. We need to get an bearer access token first, right? So I need to go into my organization settings to pick it up. Again, organization settings, not your personal vault settings, not your individual vault settings, right? And now you know why that is, because zero knowledge, because those two are separate, completely cryptographically separate entities. So I am here, and as you see, if I click view API key, I need to type in my master password. I'm going to move this off the screen because the moment I type in my master password, it will just show in plain text my API key and client secret is what it's called. And by the way, though, these are not production instances. This is just testing, but for good measure, you know. So I'm also going to pull this terminal shell over as well. And I will run a couple of these commands over here just because last time I did this, I moved the terminal shell over to my other screen and I just expanded and showed everything again. So let's see. So I want to use this, right? So I'm just going to copy it from, where are we? So I have this open and I'm just going to use this curl command to retrieve a bearer access token. Okay, so I'm copying the client ID. Everything just disappeared on my, there we go. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. I clicked option. Apparently that's a problem. So yeah, one thing I want to note is that be aware that you need to include that organization dot that's at the beginning of your client ID. I see some people send in requests saying like, hey, that didn't work. And I asked them if they included the organization dot part, and they did not. So now I hit send and it was returned basically this, replacing this, and it's returned an access token, which is just this long string that looks like a key, basically. I'm going to copy that, although I need to copy the, well, okay, whatever. So I have that. The next thing I need to do is I want to retrieve that endpoint, right? Not this. I want to retrieve this endpoint. So this is the command. This is the sample request we're going to use. It's the get on the public collections ID. And I'll show later, I should pull this back, where you can get that collection ID. But you're going to input that in here, and then you're going to paste that bearer access token that you just retrieved and produced in that spot over there. So I'm over here. I want this. I'm going to use this and then just add the collection ID at the end. Actually, I think I have this request over here, and I just need to paste the bearer access token. And I will also do a pipe and do JQ just to make it pretty so that we can see it all nice and pretty. Pipe JQ. All right, and I have gotten, this is that access token, right? And I got this collection. This is the ID of the collection. And let's just go over to the documentation again and compare notes. So yeah, it looks like here's the external ID. I don't know why it's on the bottom instead. And the object is a collection, the ID, and the groups. I don't have any groups assigned to this collection specifically, so it's nothing there, and the type. So yeah, that's what I would get if I were to retrieve a collection. This is all the information, and it looks like it's in line with our documentation. So this is our public API. That's literally all you have to do. And let me just pull this over again. You just post to get that bearer access token with your ID and secret. See, I wrote here, remember to include the organization dot part because people forget that. And then the secret, replace that, copy that token into here and put your collection ID here. And if you have JQ installed, make it pretty. So that we can keep on the side over here. And let me just check my notes if I'm missing anything. No, we're good. So let's try with the Vault Management API now. So I am going to use this pink shell over here. See, why was it like, why did it turn small here, but my other one turned big over there? I don't understand and will not. Let me just check my BW status just to see where it's at. I'm usually logged in. So yeah, I'm logged into the right account, and this is an admin of my organization, and it's locked. So we are just going to unlock that with the master password. So BW unlock keeps it hidden. There we go. And I will just pass this, export the session so that it keeps a session running and keeps the whole thing unlocked. Cool. So let's go. Okay, now in this terminal session, I'm going to run BW serve. The magic HTTP server in the background. And I will just, for demonstrations purposes, open a new shell over here. Let me get back to this screen over here. And so, yeah, I'm going to open a new shell over here. And we have the BW serve running. And, oh, yeah, so by default, let me just go to, this is like, which one is the right one, you know? Here. Okay, so you can specify a different port if you would like to, or a different host. By default, it's going to run on 8087 and localhost. So that's what I'm going to check over here to see if this BW serve is running. So I would just do -I 8087. And look at that. Indeed, we have a server running in the background on localhost port 8087. So from here, now we need to pass this request over here. And yeah, there are ways you can, I'm going to just do this request. There are ways you can kind of, if you're in a script, you can, you know, set up a TXT file. Like that's what sometimes we do with like secure string or something like that, so that you don't have your password just in plain text. But I am just going to do that on the side over here. So I'm basically taking this command, putting my master password in there and send that through. I got a success response to that. And so after that, I'm going to do the same thing to export this session for the API, for the Vault Management API. So let me just pass that with the session key. And from here, we can just serve commands as we would normally, curl commands. So I am going to do that same command that we did over with this collection ID, right? This specific collection. So let me just see if I'm missing anything. Oh yeah, so before that, let me just go into the web vault to show you the collection that I'm retrieving. So you can see over here that the collection ID is right up here. I'm in the collection that I retrieved earlier with the public API. So that collection ID is just picked up from here. And also, if we look at the documentation over here, it says that retrieve an existing collection from a specified organization by specifying the unique collection identifier, it's a bit of a mouthful, in the path and an organization identifier as a query parameter. So that's why we will put the collection ID here and then do another query parameter for the organization ID. So I already have that. Let me just send that through. It's this one, yeah. Let me just send that curl request through. Oh, and pipe it with JQ so it turns out pretty. Sometimes you like send like a really big request, like list all the items or something like that, and it just comes back this like JSON blob, you know? Okay, so yeah, let's look at what that's returned over here. It looks like it is this collection. And again, let's kind of put it side by side with the schema over here. And here's our serve going on in the background. So we have the object organization ID, it's down here, the ID of the collection, the name of the collection. And again, I don't have any groups assigned to it, but the users that are assigned to it are listed over here. So if we go into the the collection and we check that, I think I have to go back over here and edit the access. We can see, yeah, there are indeed 3 different users. And one of them has manage permissions. So you can see that the manage is true here. The other two do not have manage permissions. And this one only has read only, right? So that's all reflected in the API call over here. So yeah, so basically that's it. I'm just checking my notes if there was anything else I wanted to mention, but basically that's it. You know, you can check out yourself all the things you can do programmatically with the API calls. Again, this is the public API call, and this is the exact same call on the Vault Management API, right? For the same collection, basically. I guess one of the things that sometimes customers ask me about, although the NIST doesn't recommend rotating passwords anymore, you could do that programmatically. Only you can only do that with the Vault Management API, not the public API, for example. So that's an example of what people would do. And this is the process with which you are able to do that. So yeah, I think that's it with the demo. Hopefully this was helpful for everyone. See, just the last slide is just to pull it up. Thank everyone for tuning in and for your time. So that's the difference between our public API and Vault Management API. I hope that this session was helpful and clarifying in terms of using these two APIs to get you set up and going. But also, I hope that the real core of our Bitwarden philosophy was also demonstrated in this session, because, you know, I've been on so many calls. Every now and again, I get people who are like, well, why do I need to use a master password for this? I don't want to do that. And it's like, well, for security, you know, maybe. Like, don't wait for a breach to happen before you figure out that prioritizing security, and on top of security, transparency matters for your organization. After all, that's how we even got here in the first place, right? So yeah, again, hopefully this session was informative and helpful. We will stick around to answer any questions in the chat, but otherwise, I hope that you all have a wonderful day. Thank you for tuning in. Sign up for the Open Source Security Summit and look out for us in the community for our next Brilliant session. And if you have a topic, please do suggest. All right, thank you guys so much, and hope to see you guys again soon.